All right, we are recording. I'm going to go over the Toulmin model, the expanded example. So what's going on with this? So the Toulmin model is very simple, right? It's just the idea of evidence, claim, then warrant. It's very simple. So all you do is you take your evidence, you say that supports the claim because of this. So if people struggle, there's the example I had at the beginning of the year. If people struggle when learning new things, right? If this is true, this evidence, then I can be able to support the claim that distance learning is going to be difficult. But how do I know? What assumptions am I making? What principles or things do we all believe? Oh, because it requires students to use technology they've never used before, right? So obviously that's why they're going to struggle when learning new things, because it's going to be difficult, because, right? They all kind of link together. So what I'm going to show you today is actually something called the qualifier and the rebuttal. And like I said, it's not that complicated, but what I like about it is that like this is almost like too simple, right? Like if every sentence you wrote sounded like this, it'd be very boring. I don't always recommend using this kind of sentence. You don't have to use this kind of sentence at all, actually. You just need to have these things embedded in your piece. I don't necessarily recommend writing this exact sentence out every time or something. And so, but it's like almost too simple, right? It's like there's no way this can be true all the time, right? I feel like we're missing something. We're missing a piece to this argument. So what are we missing? We're missing the qualifier and the rebuttal. The qualifier is kind of like the, well, sometimes. Well, a few people. Well, in California. So instead of me just saying like, this is true all the time to all people, always. I really dislike that when we say things like that. Oh, everybody is on their phone. Oh, no one's doing the homework, right? Like that's not true, right? There's always a qualifier. There's a certain number of people. There's some people. There's 50% of the people, right? There's always some kind of That's what the qualifier does. It says, hey, the claim isn't always true. It's only true in this instance or this many people. And it can be very short. It can be one word. Qualifier could be one word. The rebuttal is the counter argument, right? It's the part where you kind of admit, like, okay, here's where maybe I'm not always correct. So this is where you actually directly counter yourself, which is powerful. Because if you can set up the counter argument in your own argument, then you're sort of disabling them, right? You're sort of saying like, hey, I admit I'm kind of wrong here. Here's a little, and I'm going to have a rebuttal against that. I'm going to have a counter argument embedded in that. So let me show you what that looks like. So same example, but now has a qualifier and a rebuttal. If people struggle when learning new things, especially those who lack skills with computers. See what I did there? Like I qualified it. I'm like, it's not everybody. It's not all people. It's especially those who lack skills with computers. So see, the qualifier allows me to be a little more specific with who, when, and where I'm discussing. Especially those who lack skills with computers, then distance learning will be difficult because it requires students to use technology they have never used before, unless they are taught the skills necessary to use it. Okay, so see, like there's the solution right there. There's the solve to the problem. There's the solution to the problem. There's the rebuttal, right? Well, all of this is true. They are going to struggle unless we teach them that, and then you can go into further detail, right, in your own pieces. Then you can further counter that rebuttal, right? So then you could say something like, well, like, but however, in order to do that, many, hours will be spent in class on computers. Or learning about computers rather than the course content, right? And so see, that's not part of the Toulmin model, but you see how like the Toulmin model sort of sets you up. It sets up your argument. So even if you don't use the Toulmin model, even if you don't actually use this exact sentence, it gives you an idea in your head, right? Because you're like, okay, I need to have my evidence, I need to have my claim, I need to have my warrant, and oh yeah, I need to bring up the counter arguments. And however you do that is going to be your personal style, your writing style. But you can see how like it just makes my argument so organized and like easy to pull off. I don't have to worry about what goes where. I can just put it all together, and then I just want to keep going. I want to say, well, however, and then I just keep writing. And then hopefully I write like too much, and then I can edit it down and make it shorter. The word counts that I put in my assignments aren't there to like challenge you and like, oh, let's see if you could write a lot. It's there because honestly, a lot of students go too far, or they don't put enough effort in, and they just put in like the bare minimum, and it's not good because they didn't really challenge themselves. So that is the qualifier and the rebuttal. So let's look at an actual example. Let's look at an actual example. I just did that one off of that. Let's look at, here's something from the Kialo review. So let's see if they did these things. Or if I were to write my own, right? Imagine I'm writing this review. So here's an example from there. Most people believe rules govern personal behavior. But the truth is, individual communities' cultural norms play a much more significant role in shaping how people interact with one another. I don't know if Kialo has moderators on standby, ready to remove personal attacks masquerading as claims, but in all my time on the site, I didn't stumble across a single ad hominem style criticism. Ad hominem is a kind of fallacy where you basically attack the person instead of the argument. You see that a lot, huh? I think you know where. The kind that so regularly sully Facebook discussions and Twitter feeds. I imagine most users refrain from this sort of behavior simply because they don't see anyone else on the site engaging it. So what's the claim here, right? What is the claim in this argument, in this paragraph? I would argue that the claim is almost at the end. You could argue a couple different ideas. There isn't a perfect argument here. I imagine that most users refrain from this sort of behavior because they don't see anyone else on the site engaging it, right? So like there's the claim. So the reason why people don't attack each other, they don't attack each other because they don't see other people engaging it, right? They don't attack each other, right? They don't. That's kind of the claim here, is that on Kialo, they don't attack each other. Right? On Kialo, they don't attack each other. So if I was writing this review myself, they don't attack each other. So what is sort of the evidence? How do I know they don't attack each other? Because in all my time on the site, I didn't stumble across a single ad hominem style criticism. Right? So if people do not attack each other, or if people do not use ad hominem attacks, then on Kialo they don't attack each other. And then why is that? Like, what's the principle? Because they don't see anyone else doing it. It's like the culture. It's like the style of the website, right? According to this author, he claims that it's like the culture, right? The claim is like the culture on Kialo. Maybe I can even change this. Like the culture on Kialo is you don't attack each other. Now, what is this everybody? Is there, I don't know if Kialo's moderator standby is nearby, but in all my time on the site, I didn't stumble across. So all the time. So if people do not use ad hominem attacks, at least what he's seen, at least from what I've seen on the site, right? And see how I'm like qualifying there? I'm like, well, the arguments that I've seen. I haven't seen the whole site. I haven't looked at every single thing. But see, I qualified it, at least from what I've seen on the site. The culture on Kialo is they don't attack each other because they don't see anyone else doing it. However, right, and then this is where you bring in the rebuttal, right? Maybe there are attacks that he hasn't seen, right? You want to admit that somehow you're wrong. Like, well, maybe it isn't. And then you would counter that, right? You'd say like, well, that's still a pretty good sign. That's still like a pretty small amount, right, from what they've seen. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you today. If you want to do an example of that yourself, if you want to try adding a qualifier and rebuttal to a previous example you've written, awesome. But I'm just going to leave this here in this assignment. Is this on the Canvas? Yeah, it is. So it's on Canvas. So if you want to look back at this example again, and so that should be good for you if you want to use this in your own writing. So any other questions? Was there anyone want me to go over that again real quick? I didn't highlight my second example. I didn't do that. I could go back and highlight it for you if that would be more clear. But this is me just understanding, like, and then you see how like this is the Toulmin model. He didn't actually use that in here, right? When he wrote that paragraph, he wasn't using this Toulmin model. But you see how I found the Toulmin model in there? That's what I'm talking about when I say that you can write whatever style you want. You don't have to write out all of these little sentences exactly in a very perfect way. You can do that in many different ways. He has a claim in this paragraph. He has an argument. He has a qualifier. He has all these things in here. He might have a rebuttal in this paragraph. The rebuttal might come later. But he has all of these things in this paragraph. That's what I want you to go for. Okay, that's what I want you to go for. So if there's no questions, and please, if you have one, it's never too late. Today, I want you to turn in your problem and any apps you are considering. Highlight each one of the paragraphs so I can make it more clear. Okay, yeah. Okay, 1 second. So if this is my claim, right? So I had bold on the claim. What is the evidence? Or no, wait, this isn't the whole claim, right? The claim I went with was at least what I've seen on the site. The culture of Kel is they don't attack each other. So like they don't see anyone else doing it. The truth is the individual community's cultural norms. I don't know. Yeah. So it's more like the cultural norms, right? It's the cultural norms that are the thing that makes it so no one attacks each other. What's the evidence from that? Because in all my time on the site, I haven't seen a single attack. So this is going to be like the, so you have the claim and then you have the evidence. The claim is, there is no thing, it's bolded. The evidence is yellow. And then you have the warrant or the thing that we can all, and that is because they don't see anyone else doing it. They don't see anyone else on the site engaging in it. They don't engage in that stuff. So this is the principle that they're basing it on, because they don't see anyone else engaging it. And there's no perfect Toulmin model. And so then the qualifier, at least from what I've seen on the site, technically, I don't know if they have moderators on standby, but in all the time I was on the site, right? So that would be like the qualifier. They actually had a qualifier in here too. So let's do that one in like a blue. So that is the qualifier, right? Because they admit that they haven't been to every single part of the site. They've only been on that part of the site. And is it a rebuttal? I imagine most users refrain from this sort of behavior simply because of this. Yeah, they don't really have a rebuttal in here. I kind of made up one because I wanted to have a rebuttal. This author may have put the rebuttal in the next paragraph, or they may have their own rebuttal in its own paragraph. There's a couple different ways you could do that, but that's it. So there's the claim, the evidence, the warrant, and the qualifier, everybody. And you can see that they have their own individual style, completely separate from the very specific model that I gave you for the Toulmin. So I'm going to go ahead and end my little video here. 12 minutes. That's not too bad. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's helpful, everybody. If you're watching the video, thanks for watching.